Hey, a couple of things before we get started. One, I'm going to be doing a live stream going over these starter decks and testing them here on my YouTube as well as on my Twitch. It's going to be on tomorrow, Wednesday, December 13th at 4 p.m. PST or 7 p.m. EST. Should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of testing for it, and you guys can see how the game works. And I'll also have that re-backed up here on YouTube as well. And then if you guys want to have any resources for the cards or anything else, make sure to check out my website, Eggman Events, which you see here right now. It has all the star decks, all the images for them up here, and then also all the cards that they've been releasing for the set 1 and the promo cards too, so you guys can check those cards out as we get them released. And so we have, like, again, like the star decks, we can look at all the cards, but also we do have proxies for the star decks if you want to print them out and test them out. There's a Google Drive link with has the printouts for it too, and again, like, we have all the cards that they've been releasing on their socials. This is probably already out of date as this video comes out, but it's going to be updating as we go, and just have those for you. So in the promos too. So really good resource. Make sure to check out the live stream as well, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about what's the best starter deck for you for the Dragon Ball Super Fusion World card game, which comes out in February next year. So comes out, just a couple months from now. I'm honestly really excited about it. It's been a lot of fun just looking at all the starter decks and also seeing the reveals for the cards from the first set as well, and I've just been really excited. So we're making a lot of content here on YouTube for this. So if you guys haven't hit that like and subscribe, make sure to do that. You make sure to not miss out on any Fusion World content and everything else. And I intend to cover this game for the next couple weeks, as well as just make a lot of gameplay and just kind of everything else. But in general, what this video is to kind of talk about is more of the star decks in like a broad sense, my kind of thoughts of the decks in general, of how good they are compared to each other, and as well as just kind of explain the gameplay and like mechanics of each star deck and kind of each color as we've seen it so far, so you guys can kind of have an idea of which star deck is kind of resonating with you, and it might be a good fit for you personally as well. So again, real quick, I just want to say these come out in the middle of February here in North America. MSRP of $11.99, which might be a little bit tricky to get depending on how popular this game is, but it's just like 2 months away from now. It's going to be here before we know it, and I'm just honestly really excited for it. And we also have this alternative design card pack, which I believe it's an all art of one card for the deck, which can be the leader. As far as what we know, we'll probably get more info closer to the release, but I think that's really interesting for that as well. But we're going to jump into it, and kind of real quick, my kind of thoughts for these two is that we've gone 4 star decks, and they're kind of 2 different camps. You can see that like Goku and Vegeta are kind of on the beginner side, and then we have Broly and Frieza up here on kind of the more intermediate side. So I honestly think that the Goku and Vegeta were made first. They were kind of like the demo decks for this card game that were released back in Gen Con back in August. So I think that they are really good for getting people kind of the known mechanics for this card game and how it works. And then the Broly and Frieza kind of have again an intermediate kind of mechanics for it too, which doesn't mean that these decks are better inherently either, but it just kind of shows like the complexity of the playstyle based on my own interpretation. And if you are kind of newer to card games in general, I would say like Goku and Vegeta are probably 2 of the better ones, especially if you're newer to a Bandai card game. Most of the Bandai card games kind of have some mechanics that kind of overlap, which make it a little bit easier. But if it's something new, I definitely think Goku and Vegeta are 2 fantastic picks for you. But if you want something a little bit more tricky, a little bit more kind of involved, I think Broly and Frieza are the ones there. So that's the quick pitch. But let's go into each one of these kind of starter decks individually. So we first have the first one. We have the Red Son Goku, and kind of the idea for this leader and for this deck is in the color red in this game in general is power manipulation. So that involves like having a lot of ways to increase your own power level. So boosting your own cards. You see on this Goku, it has this activate battle once per turn. Choose up to one of your battle cards, and it gets plus 5k power for the battle, which is on either player's turn, as well, since it's an activate battle, which is strong. So you see that manipulation, but also ways to reduce your opponent's power level. So this can kind of lead into making it easier for you to attack over it and KO it in battle, but also a lot of our removal cards are based off power level. And another thing in this card game too, which is different from something like One Piece, another Bandai card game, is that if something has 0 or less power, it does get removed from game. It hasn't been clear if it's KO'd or removed from game mechanics, which was a really defining feature for Dragon Ball Super Master, so which is why I won't say KO in this video, but it will get removed from the battle area. And then also this deck is kind of focused on both attacking and defending based on how these power levels kind of work, and you have the potential for a good amount of defense and keeping your cards healthy in battle, both again on the offense side or the defense side. So that is kind of how that works there. And then we have the super rares for this. We have the Son Goku, so it's a 5-drop. It's a double strike, which means it's kind of like double attack in the One Piece card game, or security attack +1 for Digimon. It just does 2 damage instead of 1 while attacking, and then has this on play. You get to choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that gets minus 20k power for the turn. So again, kind of the power manipulation of being able to say, okay, it gets minus 20k, which means it either gets removed or you're able to attack into it very, very easily because it has 20k less power. And then also we have the Son Gohan Adolescence, critical, and has the same kind of idea of when attacking, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that gets minus 1k power for the turn. So critical is also a keyword in One Piece. It's the same as banish essentially. And then for the Digimon card game, it's a little bit kind of like having protection. It's kind of like jamming a little bit. It's a little bit different for you, but just means that they don't get the effect off of whatever card you hit in their life, which is you know, they don't add to hand essentially. So that's kind of the analog for that one. So critical is better at kind of getting resources out of your opponent, and double strike is better for doing kind of direct damage as well. So we have that, and then kind of some notable cards. You guys can look at all the cards for this on my website if you want to, but kind of just some more notable cards to kind of talk about the key mechanics of red. We have this Beerus, which has crit as well, but when attacking, you get to choose up to one of your other battle cards, and it gets plus 5k power for the turn. So being able to, you know, get the additional bonus for this is great. Whis has this 1-drop on play, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards. It gets minus 5k power for this turn. So it kind of is like Otama if you guys are One Piece players. It's on red too, but you can also, you know, combo from the board, which is different than One Piece. And then we have Aandroidd 17. So it's a permanent opponent's turn. This card gets plus 5k power, and then on play, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, which in this game, those effects are really great. In One Piece and Digimon, they're generally not, but in this game, I show you they are very strong to take cards from your life. It's more of a resource for you than just a straight out like gauge of your life in like other Bandai card games. And then lastly, we have these extra cards, which are the same as option cards, which are the same as event cards, which are like magic cards, just the non-characters or battle cards, whatever you want to call them. They're extra cards in this game. And so we have the Kamehameha. It's a 1-cost red card. Activate battle, choose your leader, or up to one of your battle cards gets plus 15k power for the battle, and then also choose one of your opponent's battle cards. It's minus 5k for the turn. So either this could be like a 20k swing of power, which is quite a bit in this card game, or you can help it to get removal of cards or get things like it's just like a 20k swing for 1, which is quite good. And then also you can have ways of the minus 5k power like adds up and gets rid of something too. Like there's a lot of ways for you to kind of mix that around. And you also have the God Kamehameha permanent. If you have no battle cards, reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1, which is a little bit of a weird effect because this deck definitely likes to defend its battle cards and keep them healthy and on the board. But activate main, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 30k power or less, and you can KO it. So you can see something where like you have one of your opponent's card that's a 35k. You can use, attack with something, use Kamehameha to get that plus 15k for it, but also give them minus 5k to the 30k, and then afterwards you can God Kamehameha to get rid of the other card. So you can kind of see how the power manipulation kind of can stack or work together with each other, and it's a pretty solid way to interact with this game in general. Kind of like the simplistic way, but it still works. It's very, very strong. So that's kind of how the red deck works and the red kind of archetype works in this game. Next up, we have the Vegeta star deck. So it is the blue color in this game, and this deck kind of works on hand size manipulation of itself. At least for the star deck, it has a lot of effects based on the number of cards in your hand. Inherently, you can see on this awakened side of the Vegeta leader, it says activate main once per turn. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, this card gets plus 15k power for the turn, which is quite a lot. It becomes a 35k. Like we saw, like for 1, you get the plus 15k here from this Kamehameha, but you get it for essentially free. And in this game, it's really easy to get to low hand sizes because you can always just combo with stuff out of your hand. You can even like over combo to make sure to get cards in the the drop area if you need it? Are your hand size small enough? So that kind of just teaches the idea of using cards from your hand willy-nilly, or just, at the right order to get the effects that you really need. It also has the removal of returning to hand or bottom deck instead. So it doesn't have a lot of ways to like outright KO a card or send it to the drop. It has ways to just return it to the hand, which is okay removal, or bottom deck, which is like usually fantastic removal. So that's kind of the two ends for that. And then also just a lot of drawing effects, either from the deck or returning cards from your drop to your hand. So getting those recycling effects, being able to kind of use it to sequence the plays that you need, I think is going to be really strong for this deck. And I think at the gate, Vegeta is going to be really, really strong. So the kind of two super rares we get for this, we have the Gotenks that has an on play. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, add up to 1 Son Goten and 1 Trunks Youth, both with the cost of 2 or less from your drop to your hand. So kind of the idea for this is that you can get cards back into your hand if you already use them. So that kind of shows a lot of identity for kind of how this deck works. And then we also have the Vegeta. It has double strike, and then on play, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that cost a 4 or less and place it at the bottom of the owner's deck. So this card is just great. This gets rid of like blockers. Like if you go first, you can play this on curve, get rid of whatever big card your opponent played last turn, and then it's just a healthy body in its own way. So honestly, I think this is like one of the best cards in all the star decks. It's just very flexible, very easy to just get the effect and get value from it. And the pressure from the double strike from this is really amazing. So I think this card is really good, and it's probably like it is a card to run in this game right now. And then kind of some notable cards too. So I showed off 2 of the Gotens and Trunks Youth. So these are both cards that you can add to your hand with the Gotenks effect. Both of them kind of have effects that are based on having 7 or fewer cards in hand. So the Goten, you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards when attacking with a cost of 2 or less and return it to their hand. Or the Trunks Youth that has a permanent during your turn. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, this gets plus 10k power. So it's a 25k for free on your turn, which is great for doing that. And it has the same of an on play to add a card from your life to your hand, which is, again, very strong in this game. Very, very strong. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the Piccolo. So on play, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, you get to add 1 extra card from your drop to your hand. And also, blue has like the best extra card. We have Gallic Gun right here. It has activate battle, choose your leader or up to one of your battle cards. It gets plus 15k power for the battle. Then if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, you get to draw 1, which usually can convert into more combo power. It's kind of like how super combos works in Dragon Ball Super Master. Super combos in this game don't work the same way, but this is a really great card, and being able to use this Piccolo to get more copies of it to use it again is very good. So like the cycle in this game is very small, so this Gallic Gun is very, very good. These are over there. And then we also have Final Flash. So for 2, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1. It has activate main, discard 1 from your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, cost of 5 or less, and place it at the bottom of the owner's deck. So it is a 2-for-1, which is not fantastic for you, but it is very good tempo wise. You do have to kind of wait. Like these effects are a little bit worse when you realize that everything can attack the turn they're played in this card game. So it's not something like they play their card, they have to wait into the next turn to attack with it, and you can remove it before it gets its value. Most cards usually get their value as soon as they're played in this game, so these removals are not as good for that, but it's something to get rid of a card if you really need to, and I think that's fine as well. Gallic Gun though, Gallic Gun is the card you want. It is super good. Like it's outrageous how good this card is. So this kind of blue, if you can't tell, I think this deck is pretty good, and I think most other people have kind of agreed this is probably one of the at least stronger out of the box as well. So if you want that aggression and you want that strength, I think that Vegeta is in a really good spot for you. Next up, we have Broly, and Broly is like the most unique one of them all. We'll talk about it a little bit, but it has energy ramp for green, which is really interesting for anyone who played the Masters version of Dragon Ball Super. Ramp was usually in the blue color, but it's been shifted to green. They are effects that add cards to your energy, but also effects that based on number of cards in your energy. So like the energy is like a double resource for this deck, which we'll kind of find out. And then it has a lot of KO based destruction, so it just gets rid of a card. Just says that card has been KO'd kind of thing, which does mean it does activate on KO effects, but it does mean that you do get like absolute removal of a lot of cards without a lot of interaction. So the kind of the trade-off there. And then it's kind of based on having hand advantage and value. It has a lot of cards with critical, which we'll talk about as well, but also just the fact that we have ways to either like get free advantage back for us. So if we go card for card, we go out on top, or have it so your opponent has to spend more cards or loses cards, and that's kind of the idea. And the biggest thing is that we see that this Broly, actually all of the other star deck leaders are 15Ks on the front and 20Ks on the back. This is a 25K on the back, which is pretty unique in that way. And we can talk about the awakening condition for this Broly. It has one attack and you get to draw a card, but also awaken when your life is at 4 or less. You add 1 card from your life to your energy in rest mode, then flip this card over. So if you're at 4 life, you go down to 3 life, so that is impactful. And especially in this game, unlike Digimon or One Piece, when you're at 0 life, you just flat out lose. So that is something different for this card game compared to the other two. But we have, but you get to go up to, you get to an extra energy, which is pretty huge, and then you become huge here, and then you have this activate main of once per turn, place 1 of your energy in your drop, you get to draw a card, and this gets plus 5k power for the turn. So you become a 30k. You do have to lose an energy, but it can be something where you use the energy, you draw the card, and then you get the boost. So like you get the cycle still. You don't get like the plus hand size advantage, like you don't get the additional draw every turn because you don't have an auto draw 1 card, but you inherently draw the card because you are 5k more on a leader, which is very strong. So that's kind of like, again, like if you want something different, Broly is like the most different of all these leaders. Very, very unique. And so for the super rares for it, we have the Turles, which is a 5-drop 30k critical. When this card inflicts damage with an attack, you get to, we know how critical works, but also on play, add up to 1 card with a cost of 3 or more from your drop to your energy. So being able to on ramp, you play this, you go into 6 energy very easily, and you get an active as well because it doesn't say in rest or whatever. And then it's a 30k crit, which is your opponent either has to block this or get out of it, and that's kind of tricky to do so. And then we have our big 8-drop Broly BR over here, 45k on play, draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and KO it, which just gets removal of literally anything in the game, which is quite strong. It is 8 cost, which is a lot, but you can do something where, if you're at 4 life and then you awaken, you go to 5 life with your leader, use your Turles to go up to 6 life, and then you just need like 1 or 2 more turns to get into the Broly. So I think that's like fine. Also, if you're just at 5 life when you 5 energy when you awaken, then you can kind of go up the chain as well. So getting to 8's not too bad, and then you can play this, and then you can use the Broly effect to get rid of the extra energy you don't need anymore. So also has this, when attacking once per turn, you get to switch this card to active mode, so you get attack with this card essentially twice. And at 45k, that's going to do a lot of damage to wherever it's attacking into, which is very strong. So maybe a little bit too costly, but when you hit this, when this hits the board, it's doing a lot of damage, which is really strong. Some notable cards. This deck also kind of has like this mini engine with the Shimoans. So it's a 5k blocker. It's a one drop 5k blocker. But you can use either one of these Paraguses to recycle them, which is really strong. So activate main once per turn if your leader is Broly and you have no Shimoan battle cards. Play up to 1 from your drop with a cost of 1, which is great. Or the Paragus, the other one, on play, you get to add 1 card from your life to your hand. If your leader is Broly and you have no Shimoan battle cards, play up to 1 from your drop. So being able to use both of these cards to essentially get the draw 1 of a blocker you get to play out is quite nice. It lets you have like a defense against some like stronger bodies, and like the recycle engine means that your opponent has to spend resources to get rid of these 1-drop aliens, and then you get to recycle them back with either one of these Paraguses. So I think that is strong. It's a little bit dependent on finding these guys, and there's no search in the deck for them, so that's a little bit rough. But if you are able to find them quite early, I think they are strong enough to kind of carry your game as well. So, and then just the extra cards for this too, we have Gigantic Meteor. So again, every deck does have like these 1-cost activate battle event, but or extra card. But activate battle, choose your leader, or up to 1 of your battle cards gets plus 15k. Then if you have 6 or more energy, it gets an additional plus 1k for the battle. So it's a plus 25k, which means that with your leader, it becomes 50k for 1 card, which is kind of silly. And then we also have Destructive Strength. Activate main, add 1 card from the top of your deck to your energy. So if you're on 3 energy, you can use this to go to 4. Next turn, you go to 5. Or even like you awaken, You go to 5, and you can use turtles to go up to 6, and then just like 2 more turns, you are able to get up to your max energy. So I think that's strong. Or not max. There's no max energy cost, but being able to get to 8 to play Broly, I think is important enough for you. So definitely very different. I think there's a lot to kind of go over for this guy. You just kind of have to play him, but he's really, really cool. And then lastly, we have Frieza, which is yellow for us here. It has the power of resting and unresting cards, usually resting your opponent's cards and unresting its own cards, and just the removal for this is really based on cards being rested. So being able to say, you get to remove something, but it has to be rested already, which means it's usually already attacked, or you have to spend other resources to get it rested, or it has the, you get to stun a rest mode battle card. It says red mode. It's rest mode. I'm not going to fix it. It's a rest mode battle card. So being able to use that to stun something, which is probably like the weakest form of removal, but it does interact with your opponent and they're not able to play around it. And then also it has more defense and value compared to the others because you get to play a lot of blockers. You have a lot of on-KO effects, and then you have ways to rest cards on your opponent's turn, which means you can kind of go 2 for 1 for stopping 2 attacks with 1 card, which is great. And that's kind of the idea. And then Frieza itself has this end of turn, choose up to 2 of your battle cards and switch them to active mode at the end of your turn, which means that you can attack with a blocker, and then at the end of your turn you get to restand the blocker. So being able to be both offensive and defensive, I think, is very strong for this leader, and you have a lot of ways to take advantage of the value for that. The 2 super rares for this one, we've got King Cold, which is a 4-drop blocker, and when KO, choose up to 1 of your opponent's rest mode battle cards and with a cost of 4 or less, and you get to KO it. I love this card. I think it's very good. Being able to kind of go like 2 for 1 on blocking stuff, being able to get the block and then get the KO, rest one of your opponent's other cards that would probably attack for this turn is good. So I think that's great. And it's also a 25k, so you can play it, attack with it, end a turn, restand it with the Awakened Leader. And then we also have the Golden Frieza, which this guy is just all right. It's a 35k double strike, and like you can compare this to the Vegeta that we saw earlier. It's when attacking, choose up to 1 of your opponent's rest mode battle cards. It can't switch to active mode during your opponent's next turn. So you can like keep attacking, and you can keep stunning the same card over and over again if this continues to live. But it's obviously way better just to get rid of the card from the board and not have to, make it so you have to play the Golden Frieza, every turn or have the attack every turn. But it's still like removal. It's still interaction. It's still strong in some way. It's, again, the weakest form of it, but it's still valid and it can get some power. And again, it's a 35k double, which is very good in its own right too. So I think that's worth mentioning. So I don't have much more to say about these guys, but we do have some notable cards. And honestly, I think the best thing about this deck is just the cards for it, outside the super rares. So we have the Frieza 1-drop, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and switch to rest mode. I'm shocked this has no restrictions to the card. It just says I get to rest something. Like that is really strong. Like in any other, like Dragon Ball Super Masters, like the card like this would say, oh, a 3 or less, a cost 3 or less, or like even like the big boy Frieza here in the middle, it says when attacking, you get to choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, which will rest if it has a cost of 3 or less, right? So like that has like the cost for it. This boy having like none of it is bonkers to me. That just gets so much value. It just being able to say, oh, and like these cards exist again in Masters, but it's usually in an extra card, which means that it doesn't have a combo cost with it, but it does. So like that just seems like a really, really strong card to me. We also have the Kui, which is a blocker as well, and 1 KO to get to draw a card. So again, this is something you can play. You can attack, restand it with the leader effect, and if they get rid of it, it replaces itself. So I think that's a great effect for this deck too. So these cards are very good. You have a lot of ways to interact with your opponent's board and get a lot of value from it as well. And then lastly, the extras for this one, we have the Death Ball, which lets you get plus 15k, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 3 or less and switch it to rest mode. So this can be during your opponent's turn. So if they have like 2-3 cost bodies and they attack with 1 of them, you can get out of the first attack with this, and then you get the rest of the other thing, which means they can't attack with it either. So being able to have that interaction there too, or they can't combo with it later in the turn either. Either or, I think this card is very good for what it is. We have a card like this in Masters as well, and we didn't really get to use, like they didn't release it until like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's been pretty much a staple for Yellow ever since. And I feel like this card is going to be pretty close to that. And you also have Golden Death Beam, activate main, choose up to 1 of your opponent's rest mode battle cards with cost of 3 or less, and KO it. So again, like, you already kind of have to take the damage or get out of the attack from this, but you can see also you could Death Ball and then Golden Death Beam during your turn, so you can do 1-for-1 to get rid of a 2-cost or less. You have to spend 2 energy to do so, but you gave plus 15k to something, so it usually kind of works out. It's a little expensive, but you can see how these cards can interact with your opponent. And unlike a lot of the other removal cards where they have like an effect to make them 1 or less, or they were usually like 2, or you have to like discard a card, this is just you play the 1 cost and you get the effect. So it's very cheap removal, but you have to kind of set up the the spot for it. So honestly, I think that Frieza is pretty dependent on ordering and interacting with things at the right time. It's probably the most complicated deck for this meta, and I think it's a favorite for a lot of people. So if you like being able to interact with your opponent and being able to like rest their cards or kind of just foil their plans, I think Frieza's in a really, really good spot. So gonna wrap up this video though, and I don't know if this is healthy or not, but just kind of give like the top 2, bottom 2 for these. But I do want to just kind of go over them. I don't want to just see this picture of my thoughts here without any explanation for it. I do want to talk about my thoughts for it in the general, and that's why I put that there. All 4-star decks are good. They're all good decks. They all can play against each other, and they can all beat each other. There isn't one that I feel is like 100% like the best deck in the format kind of thing. I think no matter which one you choose and you kind of develop a relationship with, like you can find a lot of ways to play these decks, and they're probably going to support these for the next little bit. We've seen how they've done it with One Piece as well, where pretty much all 4 starter deck leaders from that are viable to a sense, which is really nice. And they're all good to play. So there are no wrong answers. Like that is the spoiler for this video. There's no wrong answers. But my thoughts, if I had to say what the best ones are, I think Vegeta and Frieza are probably a little bit better than Goku and Broly. Vegeta itself is pretty straightforward, but it has a lot of pressure. It has a lot of ways to attack you while drawing cards and interacting with your board and just getting a lot of tempo while putting down a lot of pressure, which is very good. And then Frieza it just has a lot of ways to interact with your opponent, a lot of ways to get like blockers out and make it difficult for your opponent to do what they want to do. And if they don't know how to navigate the deck, or they don't know what cards to play around for Frieza, you're going to get a lot of free advantage because of that too. So I think those 2 are the strongest of the 4. But Goku and Broly are still in the good spots. I think honestly Goku is probably a really, really good, just you haven't played a Bandai card game before, play Goku kind of thing, and they usually do a really good job at making like the title character very just like straightforward for a lot of people getting into it. And then if you just want something like buck different, like buck wild, I think Broly's in its spot. It's there's nothing else like it right now. It has a lot of unique properties, and it's a very unique deck in a lot of ways. So we put it in the bottom 2. It's just kind of dependent on seeing the cards at the right time. There's not like a lot of card draw or cycle, especially compared to the other decks, and you do need to see the cards that you need at the right time for getting your ramp plays to get things on curve. And since you don't have a way to make that happen consistently, you can have some issues with that. So that's kind of like my only issue with the deck. But like if it goes off, sometimes you're just like, man, this Broly is just kicking my face. He is doing a very, very good job at it, and I can't really do anything about it. So but that's it. That is my final thoughts, or those are my final thoughts for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and kind of learned something about this game. I'll probably do kind of like a guide about the game from my kind of a top level kind of way, just so you guys kind of know how this game works. I do have gameplay videos, not only one right now, but I should have a second one of Golden Frieza, or I guess just Frieza versus Broly in the next couple days too, so make sure to be on the lookout from that. And also we do have a live stream in the next couple days, or tomorrow we have a live stream, so make sure to check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.